A story now of heroism and inspiration. A documentary chronicling the life of a 97-year-old Holocaust survivor, Henry Warmoth, who recently passed away. Henry survived Auschwitz and many other concentration camps. He almost assassinated Hitler on a train in 1942. Joining me now is Henry's daughter, Alana, his granddaughter, Taya, and also we're joined by Arya Hoffman of Video V Productions. He and his partner, Kefi Wise, interviewed Henry between 2017 and 2019, and they made the documentary, Breathe Deeply, My Son. Let's take a look now at a clip from that film.
I will never forget. I will always remember. My name is Henry Warmoth, and I was born in 1923 in Frankfurt, Germany. I lived there with my parents and my little sister Hannah.
When Henry was just 19, while living under Nazi occupation in Kwie, Poland, he nearly changed the course of history by attempting to derail Hitler's train. This is his story.
Incredible film there about an incredible man. With me now, I want to go first to Taya. Taya, I know that you're 21. You very recently finished your service in the IDF. I understand that it was your grandfather's life and his courage that was a big inspiration for you, especially to try and join the Special Forces. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, my grandfather, he always made me proud to be Jewish, and he's been through so much in his life, and that means I can do anything if he can do that.
And what was it like for you going to Poland, actually tracing the steps, of what he lived through during the Holocaust?
It was very emotional. It was actually the second time I'd been to Poland. The first time I went with my school, and he actually wrote me a letter while I was sitting at a mass child's grave, which I read, and it brought me to tears. It's unimaginable.
You went to Poland the first time before your IDF service, and now you've also been back there retracing your grandfather's journey. How did the IDF service perhaps change you as a proud Zionist and a proud Jewish woman?
I've always been proud, and that's been instilled into me from my grandfather and my mother. But now I just feel like I've done something to serve my country.
Beautiful. Alana, I know,
I've done my part.
Alana, that the grieving process for you as a family and for you as a grieving daughter, it was affected entirely because of coronavirus. Your father was diagnosed with coronavirus early on in this pandemic. He survived that infection, but the grieving process is totally not normal, I understand.
Well, actually, they tested him several times and it kept coming back negative, but they did say he had all the signs of COVID. So to this day, we're still not sure. But he was in hospital a few weeks ago, and he actually was released from hospital on the 75th anniversary of his liberation from Mauthausen. And then, unfortunately, he went downhill again. And the second time, he said, "I'm not going to hospital," and he insisted on dying at home, which meant that we could be with him, and that's a consolation to us, because if he'd been in hospital, there's no way we would have been able to be near him. But the whole thing, the funeral and the shiva process was very strange, because obviously there would have been an awful lot of people around him, or around us rather, and we were just alone.
A very powerful story, and I know that you're important to you that you were able to spend those final breaths with your father. What was it like for you to share your father's story with these filmmakers and these producers who were chronicling the story for this film?
It was an incredible process because I was incredibly lucky to have two people who were as passionate about my father's story as I was. And they really went above and beyond to make the documentary something that we can proudly show to people and educate people around the world about not only my father's experience, but about the experience of so many millions and millions of Jews and others who perish under the most unimaginable horrors and circumstances.
Aria, I want to ask you, as a filmmaker, there are many Holocaust survivors' stories you could have tackled with a project of this magnitude and interviewed over the years. Why did you choose Henry, and what did you take away from your time with him?
Well, it was actually quite by accident. We were asked to film a celebration of Hanukkah with Henry. Then we asked to film a lecture by Henry to some students in a school. And then I discussed it with Kathy, and I said, why don't we make it a film about a book? And that is how it came about. And of course, as we went along, we realized that we can actually change the whole thing and make it as an educational tool for the whole world to see.
What do you hope young viewers especially, I mean, we are still in living memory of the Holocaust, but sadly we're losing the survivors more and more each day with age. The eyewitness first-hand experience isn't going to be around for much longer. So what do you hope that young students take away from the film you made?
Well, this is the reason why we are so passionate about it and why we wanted this to be global venture. We want the whole world to see it and to learn from it, and we do hope that this will never happen again.
And Kathy, one incredible story, part of Henry's life story, is this attempt to assassinate Hitler, that he had heard that the train would be passing through. He knew the spot where it may come around a bend. Tell me more about that moment and really this man's courage and how you tackled that part of his life.
Well, I'm not so sure that I could do what he did. But, you know, we also didn't think that we're going to find the place where he actually undertaken the whole lot. But Tia's brother managed to find the spot where we saw the actual place. And it was quite moving and quite emotional.
And last question, Kefi, what do your lasting memories from this journey that you took, how has it changed you also?
There are so many moments that are very emotional. And obviously, when we showed the real journalism that we found, a journal that we found originally from Mauthausen, we showed it to Henry. It's actually in the end of the film. And we could see the emotion it evoked in him. That actually was a pivotal point in the film for us. The emotion and the distress that it brought. We realized that this is such an impact on, and we wanted to take this and make it relevant to the young generation. Because as you said, unfortunately, that generation is not going to be with us for a long time. So this is really a piece of history that we want to preserve and teach the next generations. An
incredible piece of filmmaking and an incredible life story to remember and be inspired by. Thank you all so much for being a part of this segment on Zoom In.